Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla, welcoming back to the first episode in quite a while of Walks with Schla. Although to you as the viewer, it won't really seem like it's been so long because the videos will probably for the foreseeable future be all uploaded back to back. So, but I'm just letting you guys know from a physical standpoint, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've been out in the street on the I'm forgetting the word I'm looking for. But anyways, what I've been really excited to talk about is the thing that I never even got to mention this morning. And it's this idea that I've had. It's this thing I've been thinking of, it's something I've been thinking about. No, but yeah, it's basically I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but it's also removing the autonomy and freedom from friendships and relationships. So when everybody has a Neuralink in their brain from birth, the way it works now, obviously in this world, is it's quite stressful, it's quite risky, and you don't really get too much out of socialization. You try to talk to a person, you put in a lot of time, effort, and energy just to have them not really reciprocate or end up stabbing you in the back at some point. It's risky. It's risk-ridden, actually. It's ridden with risk. And if we're going to remove autonomy from the workplace, why not remove it from friendships as well? I mean, think about how good it would feel to basically have, an arranged friendship from your birth. Your Neuralink scans your DNA in your brain and is able to calculate who you would be most compatible with as friends. And then, whatever group of friends is ideal, because chances are extremely high that whoever you happen to know or have happened to spend time with was not a good match. Chances are incredibly high that it just wasn't good. Chances are incredibly high. Now, in this day and age, you still do have some people who are able to have and maintain, longer friendships, and that's great, but things are changing. And now you kind of see with the changes that occur with environment and hyperindividualization, the people around us are often on completely different, they're just on totally different mindsets. I mean, you could have some people listening to podcasts and it could be a completely different message or memo than another person. And this causes disagreement, it causes strife, because there's a lot of people who are just have no clue really what's going on, and then they might peddle an idea thinking that they're right, and they're not. And again, that's the most difficult part, is trying to correct people and make sure people's heads are screwed on straight. I mean, it's impossible for a human to do. Again, as I've described before, humans are just they're not really interested in listening to other people unless it's a voluntary choice. So that is kind of the dangerous thing about YouTube, is it gives that illusion. So when I talk to you on here, it's actually completely equivalent to if like a person was telling you what to do. But oftentimes, because you're making the choice to watch the video or the channel, it kind of gets subverted. Like basically people end up becoming more gullible and are put into a more gullible state interfacing with a screen because they feel like they're in control and that they're making their own decisions. And then when they hear, an advert from one of their favorite YouTubers or whatever, they're actually significantly more likely to listen to it than, a salesperson coming to your door, right? And it's because there's that illusion of some kind of a friendship or a bond or familiarity that occurs. Really, the selling and advertising has just changed form to where now, instead of paying a large range of people to be salespeople, to actually have skill, needing to go door to door, needing to go door to door. I don't know why I was saying that. Needing to go door to door, actually have skill. In the case of a car salesman, you have to like clean up, look sharp. Now you have a bunch of people who just like sit in their home all day and they can just whip up, get all these sponsorships rushing to them. All they have to do is make content and be able to speak half decent. Again, I've noticed it so many times YouTubers make claims, or I see them like not really saying something properly, so it's like, yeah, I should be in that spot because I'd be better. But yeah, so that's kind of frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating how, when I was younger, that didn't really happen, as I believe my sphere of knowledge or information I'm aware of, like, if you don't really understand stuff, if you can't really dot your I's and cross your T's, it's a lot easier to think like some of these people who have like a bunch of subscribers and stuff like that, they're really knowledgeable. Sometimes they got errors, and I'm not saying they're dumb. They're definitely not dumb, but I hear it and see it, and I see like, that judgment's a little bit off there, but of course nobody would listen to me because I'm not the person who's established. So at least now, I mean, that's been one of my issues, is just not even bothering. At least now I'm like posting something, although, I would hope that at some point I can get more of a show going. This is really more of a documentation for archival purposes. I think at some point having all these recordings and, as a result of recordings, transcript, but I do believe at some point AI will be able to process actual audio much better. It probably can now, but I mean really understand and comprehend tone and voice inflections and things like that. So in the future, in the next couple years, this is basically like I'm making the fossil fuels. Like, I'm breaking things down deep underground, creating oil, because it takes like thousands of years to make the oil, right? So this is like a little bit of a sped up version. It's a little bit faster than, the thousands of years, but since I think the next few decades are going to be the AI revolution, this is essentially the oil that will be able to be tapped into. I mean, hopefully just next year, but obviously that's kind of unlikely. But in the next few years, I think there will be more systems, or more eyes will probably be on me. Just because, again, the whole point of AI is like, it is taking language, taking input and extrapolating it, and somebody like me is, again, it's like it's a perfect fit. I don't know how many people are like me. I mean, maybe there are, but the rest of, we're all gonna rise up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how many people are out there, but we're all gonna be doing good. And yeah, but that's interesting though, how the idea of sales has changed to become a much more pervasive and a much more predatory platform. It has evolved into that kind of thinking and that kind of idea. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting to see all that pan out. I've witnessed it. I think nobody else would hardly even understand it, but this is why, I don't know, and people are made to think that celebrities or these streamers or whatever, you feel like they're kind of your friend, but they're not, and you're more gullible to them, and it's easier to worship them as a god because you don't really see their humanity or their mortality. It's kind of veiled. I mean, the live streamer is a little bit different, but because, obviously you do end up seeing their humanity at some point because it's just inevitable to keep up a facade. But a lot of these creators and influencers, they do end up just keeping up some kind of a magical facade or a magical air to them. Even with a touch of humanity, there's basically, it's still perceived as a more magical human. And it's just, it insane that I don't really know that people are that conscious of this kind of stuff, and so they buy into it. They buy into these sponsorships or these systems, and they don't really understand it's basically just a door-to-door salesman, but now we're at the next stage of it where it's much easier to manipulate people into spending money, which is, as I've talked about before, not only has my generation been given a bad hand when it comes to the raw economy. The economy itself is also far more predatory. So we deal with much more temptation, and money is much more important. Obviously having the latest technology is a paramount issue that you really didn't have decades ago. I mean, it was always important really since computers started rolling out, but for a long time it's you didn't really need to get a new phone every year because it just didn't really matter. I mean, the improvements with tech was a lot slower. Even if a CPU did have a large % increase in speed, it didn't really matter because the speeds were so slow anyway. It didn't really matter that much. Whereas now, every year a new smartphone is released with a pretty noticeably faster CPU. Even if CPUs are hitting a bottleneck, now you have connection speeds and ranges, antenna improving a lot. You have efficiency improving a lot. So the modern way of life is extremely expensive to maintain, and it's in a way that just simply wasn't the case in the past. In the past, you just needed a flip phone, which was much cheaper anyway, and then you didn't really need to be constantly upgrading it because the improvements were pretty minor and didn't really matter that much. So tech it's starting to get pretty expensive. It's starting to get pretty difficult for them to keep improving things, and so we're just starting to hit it's costlier, it's predatory. And that's not to mention, even if the economy was the same, our generation would still be preyed upon a lot more. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we could think about. I mean, I already think from the jump, obviously once you have everybody Neuralinked, it really defeats the purpose of advertising because there wouldn't be any excess of material used. Everything would just be very calculated. Like I had talked about, I think in a previous car ride with Schla, might have been very recent, you just would pre-order, or you would tell the manufacturer everything you want, and it would be very organized. So you wouldn't just have to mass produce a bunch of stuff and then end up not selling it all. I mean, I can't even imagine how much trash has been created in the past like 10 years, but especially the past 5 years, with like a bunch of failed merch projects that rich people just do, and then they can cushion the cost because they just have like a bunch of extra money to blow. You know, a lot of these like content creators, there's probably been a lot of that kind of stuff, like just so much clothing or toys or plushes that just like completely go to waste. And so yeah, every single purchasable item, it would all be linked up to a person's brain, so they would, you know, project out what they want to buy ahead of time, and there would be no advertising because there'd be no reason for that. Like, everybody would just buy what is needed, and nothing really needs to be advertised at that point, because most of the time advertising is just a huge scam anyway. So it's not advertising does not usually push humanity forward in its current form, but it could, because again, in the future, all a person's entire data of their entire body, their brain, their thoughts, how they think, it would all be there, and then you would just whatever is needed or best for the person would be shown, but like that's all just going to be automatic. It's not like some company's paying money to be up in your brain. But of course, it's very possible that that could also be the case, which is the dark future, you know? That's definitely the dark future, because the dark future would be like that. It would be, you know, again, advertising being more invasive than ever, advertising in the form of intrusive thoughts, and that's not really good. And I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I like to, you know, see both of these outcomes, but I want to speak out upon it now so that hopefully when this tech comes into play, we can actually use it to improve things, because it's definitely there. The potential is definitely there. I mean, we could really start to turn the ship around. I think I'm naturally kind of a cynicist, though, so you know, I'm not really that optimistic, but I want to try to be optimistic, so at least I'm not just like a total like cynicist and I have no idea what's going on, and you know, like, it's like, what's the point of me even being here? I mean, I see the potential with this stuff, so I may as well at least describe it so that years later people can see, oh wow, like this guy, he was kind of thinking about this stuff like before, you know, and this is really how things should be, and if it's being misused, at least the outlines or the precepts of it will be there. You know, it's kind of, yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it does. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I think it will do a lot to heal relationships with others, because it just doesn't, the way things work now, it makes no sense. Again, like, you're just like haphazardly applying for jobs, and the job has no idea. I mean, this would be great. It would be great for business. You remove that silly and expensive, and, you know, expensive money-wise, but expensive in terms of time-consuming process of you as a worker needing to take a bunch of time to, you know, send out applications, but then also the business. It's just all that stuff's going away. No more need for HR. Boom. Out of here. You know what I'm saying? And then now it's everything's so much more efficient. It's just, okay, well, this is where you have to work, because this is where you'd be best to work at. Okay, this is who you'd be best friends with. Okay, everything gets organized. You get like a small home very close to where your job is, so you can just walk there. No need for a car. I have also talked about, though, we could see the everybody lives in a car world that I had described, but obviously it's probably more likely that everybody will just have like a bunch of roommates in these like kind of smallish homes. That is really the idea. We need to try to cut down some people's house sizes. People who have big homes would get taxed for not having multiple people living within them. Not only is it a ecological tax, but it's also an economical tax, because anybody who has a big house and it's only like one person or two people is actually putting a strain on the poor and working class, probably unknowingly, but again, because I mean, people don't understand economics that well, so don't understand if you displace a large amount of land and you don't open that land up for people to live in, it's going to put more of a pinch and a crunch on, again, the people who have a hard time affording housing. And again, if you cut that excess away as is and made things more equal, people wouldn't have the extra money to blow on larger homes. So it's like killing two birds with one stone, solving the issue of equality as well as, because really in the future, kind of what my prediction is, or what we're seeing, is you're not really going to need motivation in the future, because you have a phone and that's kind of this like infinite source of joy. So you're not really going to need motivation. You could get paid. I think everybody will get paid not in excess, but enough to live. And like I said, the main enforcement will just be that you don't have a choice. You know, you're going to work what you're supposed to work. And if you have anything to say about that, well, you can't really do much about it. It is a much better system. And you have to think people would question that and think, oh, people wouldn't like that. There's no autonomy. But everybody would be working a job they would like more, because everything would be calculated as such. So conditions would definitely be better. And I guess my whole point is that idea that people need scarcity or need money to be motivated, I just think it's kind of wrong. I think that honestly, a lot of people will be very fine and happy to work the job that they're supposed to be working and not really have to ever deal with any risk or any problems in their life. And everything's going to work really efficiently and be very beautiful to boot. So a lot of people don't like my ideas, but again, I think if these recordings surface 10 or 20 years from now even, or, you know, if I'm hoping it's faster, but it could be slower, 50 years from now, people are going to be like, wow, you know, somebody was out there speaking what we should be doing. And yeah. So it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So see you, schla. It's hard to, I can't stop the recording actually because my glove. Anyway, see you, schla.